possibly, hopefully.
I
Yes,
start
of
the
course.
machine and see what happens.
Okay.
Let's start with not listening to the record, but with reading about Sarah Worden.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the most valuable encyclopedia of modern times called Wikipedia,
Ah, yes.
you can read a multi-instrumentalist who studied classical music and rock music and pop music and every kind of music. And if you read further on, you will see a note that you wrote a Baroque opera. And now we come to the new record. And then listening to the new record doesn't sound very much Baroque. So is there two people inside of this small person?
I think so. I think if I was a creature, I would be probably like a black and white striped creature because I pendulum swing. When I do rock music, I am really influenced by soul and punk and sort of minimalism as well, like new music. And then if I go too far into the world of electric guitars, then I swing backwards, or not backwards, but to another direction of doing more detailed work with arranging, and that leads me down the path of chamber music or collaborations like with David Lang, or writing a Baroque opera.
What's more fun?
I don't know. I like it. I like it all. Writing the opera was probably the most stressful thing I've ever done because I composed all the music. I was singing and performing in it, and the group was self-directed, so there were 15 musicians. But I was also trying to lead rehearsals, and that was really pretty crazy. So I wouldn't call writing the opera fun, but it was perhaps the most rewarding thing, because at the end of it, I thought how proud I was and how, like, it allowed me to be working on all systems, every aspect of what I do except being a player. And I think for the My Brightest Diamond album, I'm still arranging and, writing the songs, but it's more collaborative. It is really a band, and it also confronts me in a really personal way. And it's very much about engaging with people, engaging with community, and, a conversation between me and the public. Me and the audience in a way that's different.
What surprised me was that they said it's a Baroque opera. You could have done a rock opera. Wouldn't that have been much easier to do for you? Or more comfortable?
I don't really like rock operas that much. I mean, I liked the December's album I did, which was a rock opera. But it wasn't staged. It wasn't meant to be staged. And the way that I came to writing for a Baroque ensemble was that this theorbo player who has this group called Box in Belgium reached out to me and said, "Hey, would you like to collaborate?" And I said, "Well, I just made this chamber music album with Y music. I don't really want to make another My Brightest Diamond album. Why don't we do something that has a story, that has visuals?" And so I brought in my friend and playwright and director, Andrew Andrzejak. And that's kind of how the project started.
And there's still rock in Baroque, isn't it?
Touché.
In German it works much better as well, because the same way written.
I never thought about that.
Well, I think it's like Leonard Bernstein said. There's no difference between Bach and the Beatles. They use the same music.
It's true. You're just really literally. I think about it as a difference between watercolor painting and oil painting, or using a pencil, using charcoal. You're just picking up different tools, but you're still drawing.
So let's stick to this painting. The diamonds. Is it an oil painting or a watercolor or charcoal, or what kind of picture is it? Painting.
The beauty of it is that it continues to change. I guess every year, this metaphor keeps sort of unfolding in a different way, and I have a different relationship to that symbol. Right now, when the symbol first began, it represented there was a literal diamond, and there was a very magical, supernatural story of a diamond that came to my family, and I had that image as a metaphor for this very special person that I actually lost at the same time. And so initially the idea was, I have this precious diamond hidden in my pocket, that if I brought it out and showed it to people, they could never really understand how beautiful and special it was. And so I kept it a secret. And now on this album, the first song, Pressure, the diamond, I say, working so hard, little delight, I forgot the sound of diamonds, which to me is more like the sound of my own voice, the sound of my own, kind of getting lost in a certain way and not being able to articulate yourself.
Speaking that way, it had a very personal album, and did it help you, make you free from something, like having a session with a shrink?
Very much so. I mean, it started out really as much more of an intellectual exercise. I guess I began with the question, what is the value of music? Very simply because my industry has completely changed. And as a person who really lives to make records, when the value of records is shifted, as a musician, you really have to figure out how you're going to shift with the times and have a new frame of thinking. And so this really started as that question. And so I was reading these books about music throughout history and looking at these really big themes. Daniel Levitin lays out these 6 themes throughout human songwriting, which were like religion, war, friendship, love, why we listen to sad songs when we're sad. I can't remember what this information songs is the 6th one. And so I set out to write these 6 themes. And what I found was that I got to a certain point where the record was basically finished, and I'm like, this is good, but it's not vulnerable. I'm not risking anything, and there's some like little fire that's missing. So I ended up rewriting a lot of things, and maybe a song that was about war in Guantanamo Bay, rather than make it about a prisoner to the government, the conversation was more that I became the prisoner. I put myself in each of the characters, and that's, I think, what opened the door for it to be as vulnerable and personal as it ended up becoming.
Do you think that the way you do it on this album and on stage, that you're pushing the meanings of singer-songwriter further?
Well,
it's not you and the guitar only. It's
no,
usually people see a singer-songwriter, that's the guy or the girl on stage and got his guitar strumming away and singing "A Hard Rain Gonna Fall," something like that. You're there on stage with a band. with a computer, and you have lots of beats on the Diamond albums, which I think is the pressure on the Diamond, is it?
Mm.
And this is not the typical topical singer,
Right.
and it's not the typical singer-songwriter. Even if you look at Neil Young as a singer-songwriter, even this is different to you.
Yeah, I see myself in this line of like maybe like Frank Zappa, you know, is a good example of like the songwriter or composer. But there you know, there are many in my generation now who are classically trained and also singer-songwriters. I mean, Sufjan Stevens is an obvious comrade, but also the composer-performers, you know, Bryce Dessner, Owen Pallett is another example. So I think I'm sort of in this generation of people that grew up listening to pop music and had pop music and classical music in our ears. And so the music that results now is this kind of meshing of these different influences.
I must admit, when I first listened to the record, it wasn't Zappa who came up my mind.
No, only maybe in the idea, not in the sound. Maybe.
I understand why you said Zappa, but what came up my mind was King Crimson.
Ah, okay.
I don't know why, but there were lines in it, musical harmonies and bridges, which reminded me of King Crimson. So, did you dig a lot into the rock history, or is it just from classical training and that things come up?
No, I mean, it's everything all at once, right? It's, I mean, I think I'm starting to kind of think of the music as like, you know, if it's kind of this mix of, you know, having grown up listening to Run DMC and Tupac and Whitney Houston as a teenager, and then at the same time there being a kind of, you know, there is that classical element, but there's also, so it's like this combination of like punk with soul music and then also a vocabulary that also includes classical music. So because this album was more beat oriented, I knew that I wanted to begin with the beats, and I wanted these horn arrangements to be both atmospheric, but you know, so at certain times they kind of have a more symphonic quality to them, and at other times they're like 70s funk. At other moments they're, you know, really just marching band horns. So what I liked about this ensemble was it's a slightly strange ensemble. It's like a micro marching band with flute, clarinet, alto sax, trumpet, and trombone. And it gave me that flexibility of doing a more kind of woodwind section, you know, to kind of de-emphasize the trumpet in a way. Or at other times by having all of the relationships of those instruments shift, then it can connote a different
I think
style.
That's one of the points which make it hard for, I'd say, the typical guy on the street to listen to this record, because he never knows what comes next, or the moment he hears one song and comes up with the next one, he's in a totally different world.
Well, I don't like to keep the guy on the street bored, you know. I like to keep him on his toes.
But don't you think that makes it very hard to sell the record? Because if I look at nowadays pop and rock music, it's all one straight thing and it's boring up to hell. If
well,
I know
that's
one
not
song,
really my concern. I mean, of course, I have to be thinking about that at a certain point, but I tried very hard to maintain my restrictions, and the restrictions on the record were that I would use, the same drummers, same wind players, and the same keyboard player, and so it's all the same people on the album, with different colors. So, I mean, really the whole thing is just like beats, horns, synths, and there's a little bit of guitar on there. But I think I am an eclectic person and I am easily bored. So, but I do try to create some parameters.
So actually, you did it the way you did it because you didn't want to get bored.
No, if I'm bored, then I don't know. You have to believe in what you do, and I listened to an album like a Sade album, and that music is quite contiguous. Is that the word I want to say? Where
I'd say boring.
But I mean, Love Deluxe is a brilliant record. I love that album so much. Or like a Massive Attack record, maybe another example of something where there's like an established vocabulary for an entire album. And then, or Sharon Jones. I think the Sharon Jones records are really interesting for that reason, because you have a set band, and then the conversation becomes not about the texture or the timbres of each record changing, because it's the Dap King's going to be on every Sharon Jones record. Then the conversation becomes about form or about emotion, or it becomes about something different because she is using the same band.
But with you, it's always the only person who is always on the record is Sarah Worden, and it's not always the same band. So
I've used the same two drummers
on all the records.
On all the records.
I didn't know that, because
and the same bass player and the same keyboard player. So it shows also who all of these people are, because that's why I love them, because they're really they feel like infinity to me.
But you could have done playing all these instruments on your own as well?
No.
Because I said multi-instrumentalist.
Well, yes, but...
And I guess it's more like it's more than 6-string guitar and 12-string guitar. Which sometimes you'll find as a multi-instrumentalist. No, what instruments do you play beside of the guitar?
Well, I have a lot of collections of... I went through this time period where I was collecting... I became obsessed with instruments that would fit into suitcases as
Flutes.
A person who travels. Well, I can't really play wind instruments, but more like a lot of African thumb pianos, an auto harp, which is like an American folk instrument, of course, the ubiquitous ukulele, and I also found, these little reed organs that literally fold up into a suitcase that you can carry, and tons of little keyboards and these kinds of things. So it's primarily keyboard, glockenspiels, and these kinds of I go through my phases where I'll become obsessed with toys, and then
you're like me.
Now I'm obsessed with
I did that too.
Guitars.
Where I still have some difficulties is, music journalists like to put music into boxes.
Sure.
Which,
well, we like to understand.
I personally
things.
hate that, because I think music can't be put in a box, because music is music, and I don't care if it's Baroque or if it's Renaissance or modern music or 12-tone or rock music or blues. As long as it's good music, it's fine. So, but with the industry, you have to put things into boxes because they want to sell it.
Sure.
So which box would you open to put your music in?
I just put myself into pop rock. I think that's the easiest solution.
You're satisfied with that?
I don't know how to explain it either. And so at the end of the day, My Brightest Diamond to me is about melodies and kind of traditional song forms. So verses, choruses, bridges, that's pop music to me. That's the basis of like the kind of folk, writing that we do. I've tried, I think, with 1,000 Sharks' Teeth to really push what that meant. And 1,000 Sharks' Teeth was to me an experiment in some ways more like lieder, more like art song. I wanted to see how far I could push the song forms. And now I really have returned to, I think on the last 2 records now, just really like almost everything is kind of like has verses and choruses,
Like Creed's Clearwater Revival. Although they said a good song only needs 3 harmonies. You use more.
I do.
Okay, thanks a lot for the interview.
Thank you.
Oh, Lord. Good timing, huh?
Yeah.
No. No, I don't answer it. Okay, thanks a lot again.
Yeah, thank you.